Houston, we have another problem. The MK1 Escort, guys, before we go any further. I hope you've had a good weekend anyway. So it's Monday afternoon, and I've got the MK1 Escort, the yellow one, over at Stewart's. Now, if you've watched our previous videos, and whether you're new to the channel, the MK1 Escort has had an engine build, and we are very excited about that engine build coming into life, so we can do some stuff for the channel with it. We have obviously tuned it quite significantly, and one of the things we've had to do, because we have tuned it, is put an uprated clutch in it. So we put a helix clutch in. Now, we have a little problem. The first problem was when we put the engine back in, gearbox was still in the car, we put the engine onto the box, gone to connect up the cable, because it's cable operated, and realised that we had no pedal. Didn't matter how much we adjusted it, no pedal. To be honest, it was a little bit of a communication error between Isaac and I. I've ordered what I thought was the right clutch, didn't really even check the end of the gearbox, balanced all the clutch to the engine, obviously with the light and flywheel and all that, so it's very sort of specific now to that engine. Isaac's unpacked the clutch, obviously balanced it, we've put it all in, and realised that it is a straight finger type. Now, for any of you that don't know what the difference is between a straight finger and a curly finger, basically the fingers that operate the clutch, what the clutch release bearing pushes on a curly finger one, it sort of curls out, and there's like a little bit there that the release bearing pushes on. The straight type are literally just straight, and what you're meant to have there is a different type of thrust bearing. So they either have an insert on them, or you have a thrust bearing, which is a different type to that, which has got like a bit of a, what they call like a ball type thrust bearing. I have got the gearbox, apparently mine is a type 2 gearbox, 4-speed, which carries this thrust bearing, which is obviously a straight thrust bearing, which is designed for a curly finger type. And I have got a straight finger clutch cover in helix, which was quite expensive, and we need for the power that we're going to be running. I've been in touch with Burton, and they said, yeah, this is the one for my gearbox, and I need a curly finger type clutch cover. Great. Trouble is, in competition for my engine, they do not do at the moment. They are on back order. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to compromise, and being an engineer and an engineering company, I'm going to make something to fit. So what I've done is done a load of calculations from where the fingers are in relation to the front of the bell housing, and I've also done calculations once this thrust bearing is in, where we need to be and how big the spacer needs to be. So I'm going to make a spacer that goes in the end there, and I've worked out that the spacer needs to be 12 mil. So I'm going to make it with a bit of an undercut that goes in there, face to face, and I'm going to bond that on there with probably some 648 Loctite, which means it won't come off. But that's just about and braces. It doesn't need to really bond to it. I'm going to make it a sort of tap-in fit so it sits nice and flush. I'm going to make it 12 mil longer, but with a ball type face on it that pushes up against the straight fingers. Let me know if you are an engineer out there, not just an armchair engineer. Let me know if you're a true engineer, whether you think before I make this, guys, this is going to work. Because I think it might, and it would definitely mean that we get some pedal. I'm all up for fitting the right stuff, but sometimes I do like a bit of a challenge. I like to make things like this, put it all in and realise it doesn't work and think, great, should have gone to the correct option. But no, I am going to definitely make a spacer. This was the thing I bought from Burton. I don't know why I bought that, but it ain't the right thing anyway. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, guys. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. On some of the other straight finger diaphragm clutches, they do have like an insert that fits into there, and then the thrust bearing pushes on it. So let me know what you think, please. I would be very interested from the true engineers out there what you think. Apart from that, once we get that sorted, we can get the gearbox on. Apparently in the next couple of days, I know I keep saying it, but Emerald are going to be sending the stuff, including the Gen V throttle bodies and that, for us to do our conversion. So hopefully, guys, about this time next week, we should be well on the way to getting it up to Tipton Garage, and Steve can carry on with his running it in and mapping it, etc. Very exciting. I've missed that car. Can't wait to get it back. Well, guys, you can see that this Cosworth that's over here. So this is the one with, we're going to call this missing parts Cosworth. This one is almost done. The bottom end is all together. We've got a few bits to go on. We actually didn't realise until Isaac got most of the front on it and that we were missing jack shaft. So that obviously drives the oil pump, so we sort of need that. So we've ordered another one, obviously found another one. We've got a front seal cover there for the auxiliary. We've got the standard pulley. So we've got all the bits now. We're going to get that on. And you can see today I put the sump on. And we've got the extra thick Cometic head gasket there with our calculations all done correct. So this thing runs 9:1 compression because it's had quite a lot chomped off the cylinder head, and it is looking very snazzy indeed. Obviously we've got to put the core plugs in, but you can see in there with our long stud conversion, and that is very nice, guys. And this is going to be running a supposed or a hopeful 550 horsepower in a 350Z. Going to be interesting. I do believe it is going to be drifting around a circuit in the not too distant future, hopefully. The Cosworth head for the missing parts Cosworth. You can see it, guys, it's looking all snazzy now, blasted and all the rest of it. We've got some new studs and nuts on the exhaust side, so it's looking really, really nice. And we've got some wonderful Piper cams here, which are the customer has supplied us. Now, I didn't really have a lot of information on these Piper cams, so I give Piper a ring this afternoon and they were really helpful. And now I've got all the clearances and the timing figures, because of course this is not hydraulic anymore, this is solid lifter. So the lifters, where these are from, I don't know. I don't know whether these are from Piper. What you got to do with these lifters, guys, they come with like a stem in the center. They've got like a pip, which is a shim, basically, on the top of there. And what I do, well, the customer actually supplied the wrong ones. So not his fault, it was from the company previously. They were sort of the right ones, but the wrong ones. The reason they were the right ones is they were for a 7mm stem, and what that means is they go on top of the 7mm Cosworth valves, but we don't run them on the top of the valves because you're limited on the space between the top of the valve and the top of the collet, so we don't want to run the risk there of it touching the collets, obviously. So we run the 5/16 one that goes on the end of these, the pips inside these. So you can see I've put those on. What I do is, they're a nice snug fit anyway, but I stick them on with a bit of 648 Loctite. They ain't coming off. Then that means we've got all this space on the top of the valve there without the collet going anywhere near anything that is going to risk basically pushing them collets down and it dropping a valve. So that's why we do it that way. So I've got all these timing figures here, guys. You can see that all the buckets are in. Now what we do is make sure that these buckets all slide up and down nicely. So what I do is put a valve in underneath and then sort of lift the valve and push down the bucket. So we go up and down, make sure they're all nice and sort of free in there, just to make sure, obviously we make sure that the cams are free as well when we're doing the clearances. We don't want any sort of false readings. So first things first, we obviously cut and lap all the seats, or all the valves to the seats, make sure that we've got a full vacuum. The way we do that, we've got a vacuum testing rig here. So if we turn that on there, we stick that with the valves in there, and on the end of the ports we put these pads. So if I just put my finger over there, you can see that gauge racing up, and what we want to be aiming for with the springs off is anything in the green, and then that means basically you've got a perfect seal. So we've done all that. Then we lay them out, obviously in order. You don't want to mix these up because obviously without the hydraulics, you've got nothing to sort of take up the slack. So it does, once you've done the clearances, they have to stay in order. So we line them all up in order. And then we do the clearances, guys. So we've got clearances of 10 thou, which is 0.25 of a millimetre. I had to think then. Oh, we've got 8 thou, so that's 10 thou on the exhaust, and we've got 8 thou, which is 0.2 of a millimetre on the inlets. So usually, rule of thumb, the way you think about it is the exhaust valve head is always smaller than the inlets, but the clearance is bigger on the smaller head. So usually the bigger clearance is the exhaust. But that's just a rule of thumb. Anyway, I'm going to be sort of going through these tomorrow. If I have to, basically the way we do it, because of the way we put the pip on the bucket there, if the clearance needs to be opened up, as in made bigger, like the clearance is too small, what we have to do is take some. If it's only a matter of a couple of thou, we've got a machine over there which does the faces of the valves, so this face, or it does the back. So what we can do is remove, providing we don't go too much, we can remove a few thou off the top of this stem here, rather than have to start interfering with the bucket. But if it's quite a lot that needs to come off, as in more than about 4 or 5 thou, what we do is on the base of that, we put the bucket in the lathe with the pip sticking out the back, and I can actually, with a boring bar, I can actually remove a little bit off the back of that pip. Now, I know people are going to be saying, oh, you don't want to do that, they're hardened, the same as the valves, it's going to wear like buggery. Been doing this for 25 years. John's been doing it more like 50, never had a problem. So that's what we do. But you have to, depending on how much needs to come off, it just basically depends off where you take it off. Now, if the valve needs to, if the clearance needs to close up, like we've got too much clearance, what we can do is take some off the face of that valve there in our valve grinder, or we can machine it off the seat if there's loads. But to be honest with you, from my experience with doing these, it's usually a bit tight, so we have to take it either off the stem or off the pip inside the bucket there, guys. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I will probably show you that in the next video. You can see there, look, I've got the lovely rocker cover. Now, that was horrible red. When I say horrible red, not that the original red is horrible, but the rocker cover was a bit nasty. There was also a breather hole in the back here, which the customer didn't want, so we've welded that up, machined it back. And you can see we've machined over the top, and that is a lovely blue rocker cover now, like they had on the big turbo Escort Cosies. We're cracking on, guys. This is going to look absolutely lovely with them nice black adjustable pulleys. Very excited, but I think for one day, that's about it really, guys. So yeah, as far as the Escort, let us know down in the comments whether many of you very skilled engineers have a better idea, because at the minute time is of the essence. We are going to be changing it in the future anyway, because we're putting a Type 9 in it once it's built, but that's not going to be for 2 or 3 months. So we want to get this thing up and running as it is, and use that clutch cover if we can. So let me know what you think, guys, if you've got any better suggestions. But until the next video, have a great evening. We'll see you then. Cheers, guys.